Fort Wayne Community Schools Board of Trustees. We begin each meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance. If you would please rise. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And roll call of members.
Good evening, Steve Corona from the 5th District.
Good evening, Glenna Yale, 2nd District.
Tom Smith, 3rd District.
Maria Norman, member at large.
Ann Duff, member at large.
Jordan Lebemoff, the 4th District.
And I'm Julie Hollingsworth, elected from District 1. And to my far left is Janet Doherty, the clerk of the board. Good evening. And our superintendent, Dr. Wendy Robinson.
Good evening.
Good evening. So we have, first on our agenda, some visiting guests with us. It's recommended that the board recognize students and a teacher from Gera Goth, Jordan.
I would say so.
Okay, Gera Goth Gymnasium in Gera, Germany, who are visiting Snyder High School this week, and Fort Wayne through October 16th. Through Sister Cities International, Gera, Germany, and Fort Wayne have enjoyed a Sister Cities relationship since June of 1992. Since that time, there have been many exchanges between the two cities as artists, musicians, government officials, and students have participated in special events in both communities. The sister school relationship between Gera Goth Gymnasium in Gera, Germany, and Fort Wayne Community Schools goes back some 25 years. Other sister city school relationships include Northside High School and Gera Zabel Gymnasium, and Blackhawk Middle School and Gera Stachus Regionalis Horizentrum. Am I close?
It sounds good to me.
Those are rivals. We have rivals. We have school rivals here in the United States. I don't know if those are your rivals or not. While here, the visitors from Germany will spend time at Snyder High School and touring Fort Wayne attractions. So please come forward as your name is read. Do we have someone to greet them, or?
Well, we've been greeting. Glenna, would you like to come down since you were upstairs greeting too? Or they can just come down and then shake all the board members' hands, but Glenna volunteered, didn't you, Glenna?
So, students, Sarah Elizabeth Troutman.
And I think their host, your host is with you. Come up too. Okay.
You want me to introduce the chaperone then?
No, that's Pam.
Oh, okay.
Students came with them, so.
Oh, I gotcha. I gotcha. Julie Angelique. Catherine Von Arb. Aaron Liebold.
He's in the grade. One of the green's ours.
Timon Nicola Weber. Lena Weiss. Pauline Helena Wogawa. Chaperone Dana Wagner. We have Snyder Principal Chad Hissong. Anyone else? Okay.
Where is our chaperone? Oh, with the pictures. Let us get in line.
Squeeze in a little bit for a picture.
Yeah.
We'll take a picture.
All right, can we kind of scooch? That means get close together, maybe 2 lines. Ladies in the front. Yeah, that's scooching. Just measure, there you go. All right.
So cute.
A couple of interesting facts.
The chaperone, please, would you tell the folks where your favorite place to eat is in Fort Wayne?
Coney Island?
Well, I'm German, so my favorite place is Taco Bell.
Not bad.
Oh, my.
I want you to share some of the things you liked about the visit so far. Let's not be shy, we wish upstairs, come on. Several of you talk.
Or maybe something you're looking forward to, or something you've already done?
Just start as a group, everybody walk over this way. You're all there.
That's the exit door, so that's the exit door right there, so you can exit that way.
Let's just talk about what it is we like. Come on.
So I'm pretty enjoying the whole trip so far. It's really fun here. We visited the zoo. That was, it was pretty fun. I went also to the corn maze on the weekends. We played a lot of Monopoly. And we went this week also to the Parkview field.
Oh, yeah.
What else?
We visited the firefighter museum.
The library.
Yeah, we went to the zoo. What else? There was so much stuff.
School was fun?
Yeah,
Yeah.
school.
Schneider today? Hey,
We
fun when I
went-
was there.
No, why don't you share what you said about
School is hard work, not fun. Yeah, we went to Sweetwater, to the botanical gardens.
Oh.
That was cool. And what else?
Yeah, I mean, I think the football games from our school, from Snyder High School, were really interesting because we don't have them like that in Germany. So I enjoyed that a lot. Also, Parkview Field was really impressive. I like that. Yeah.
They were the only ones who stayed through that Snyder game because it was so cold in the rain. They stayed. Anybody else want to say anything about school? They said more upstairs.
So I have a question for the principal, Chad Hissong. Did your basketball coach, by any chance, happen to talk to Timon about maybe sticking around for the rest of the year?
He's a swimmer. He's not a basketball player, he's a swimmer. I don't know why he's hiding back there because he talks all the time. Yes, but he's a swimmer.
I'd just like to thank the host families. It is amazing to me that we've done this as long as we have, and we never, ever run into folks who don't agree to open their homes and invite people from other countries. And so they were talking a little bit about the differences in our schools and theirs, but just them talking about having a host family and staying with the students and how the families have treated them. So host families, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I'm just curious, now do Snyder High School students then reciprocate?
We would love to.
Last year, this year,
Yeah.
next year maybe?
I think-
Maybe some of the students can host in Germany.
I think has encouraged them to want to be able to travel there.
Good, good.
Visit their
That'd be
friends.
great.
Faye is on the Sister City Committee, and so we have several people connected to that process. So that's something
Okay.
we'll think about in the future, but we really have enjoyed having you here. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Danke.
Somebody was pretty shy because he didn't talk about the fact that he was playing the organ today where?
In the embassy.
At the
Oh,
embassy.
yeah. Plays the piano and played the organ.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, thank you so
Well,
much.
enjoy the rest of your visit. Thank you for joining us.
Great.
We told them they could stay, but we recommended that they leave.
I highly recommend it.
And I would encourage anybody, we're taking the applications now for anybody who wants to travel next year to Gera, Germany for 1 more week. The application process is open to anybody in Fort Wayne Community Schools.
Okay, we'll work through Faye and get,
Really?
maybe we can get some kids. Thank you so much.
Like board member?
I don't think so.
Great.
Thank you for welcoming them.
Oh, yeah.
It's been fun.
Dr. Robinson, I do want to say that Sister Cities is in the process of looking at ways to take adults on trips. So that's something that will be coming in the future, that will be all adult trips to the different cities that we have as Sister Cities.
There you go, Julie.
Okay, next we have the consent agenda, and these are items that come to us every meeting. They include the minutes from meetings that were held September 23rd and October 7th. which board members have seen. They include vouchers and payroll, vouchers for the period ending October 14th, and payroll for the periods ending August 16th, 30th, and September 13th, and the personnel report, which members have also seen. So do we have a motion?
I would move approval of the items listed under the consent agenda, Madam Chair.
Second.
Okay, thanks, Steve. Thanks, Maria. Okay, well, all those in favor of approval signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, Dr. Robinson, was there anything on the personnel report you wanted to
Nothing at this time.
highlight? Okay. I see we're still hiring teachers, so maybe we can get, I know we have an officers meeting Friday morning, maybe we can get
We'll talk about it.
numbers on where we are.
We'll also give you a little update on proximity. And, we're still trying to make sure that that works. We made some adjustments this week, so
Okay.
we'll give you a little report on that and share that with the rest of the board.
Okay, good. Okay, so we have no old business. That brings us to new business. And first on the agenda is the ratification of the Fort Wayne Education Association contract. It's recommended that the board ratify the contract between Fort Wayne Community Schools and the Fort Wayne Education Association. Over the summer, teams from FWCS and FWEA informally bargained their contract and came to a tentative agreement. On September 19th and 20th, the FWEA ratified the contract with a 99.95% approval. On September 23rd, this board conducted a public meeting to discuss the contract, which was made available on the Fort Wayne Community School public website as required by PL 274-2019. That new law also amended Indiana Code 2029-619, adding the requirement that this board allow public comment at the meeting at which the tentative agreement is ratified. So that means that the meeting will now allow public comment on the agreement. If anyone wishes to step to the microphone and make a comment. No? Going once, twice? Okay. Questions will be addressed by Chief Operations Officer Charles Kamick Jr. or General Counsel David Ammon. So we have a motion and a second?
Move we approve the contract?
Second.
Okay, thanks Glenna and Steve. Questions?
Also want to recognize FWA representatives and President and UNISERV Director in the audience. Kind of way, we know you. But teams over there.
Some new faces, some old faces.
Yeah. But one of the things I appreciate about all of the employee groups we have, even when we're trying to come to agreement over scarce resources, I've never been involved with an employee group that didn't have the best interests of FWCS at heart. So I just appreciate the fact that people come to the table and they represent their members, but also care about what happens in this district, which is why we're able to get things done. So I also want to recognize Charles for his leadership, and most of the members of cabinet are on the negotiating team. So we have building level people also. So it's quite a long process, but I appreciate the effort to get it done.
I know we've seen the material before today's meeting, but could Charles give us just a quick snapshot of the new contract?
The wage increase is 2.5 and 1.5%. On average, teachers will get about 5% increase this year. We put in place, very important to the teachers, we put in place a way to pay teachers who have to cover for our sub shortage. That was a very important point for them, and we have a pilot in place to accomplish that. There are some minor tweaks and benefits, but all in all, I think it was a very cordial process, and I think we both came away feeling like we accomplished what we were trying to do.
Thank you.
And so, just to be clear, when you say 2.5 and 1.5, that's 2.5% for this school year, and
Right.
that is that 1.5 then for next school year?
Yes.
Okay.
But the average wage increase will be about 5% because they'll also move on the pay scale.
Right. Right.
And when you say you're doing a pilot for the teachers who are covering or have extra students, is that only in certain buildings or is that district-wide?
That's district-wide.
Okay, good.
That's district-wide, and the pilot lasts 2 years, and we're working on tweaking the bugs out of it, so, but that was a very important point that we wanted to acknowledge the sacrifice that teachers have to make when we don't have enough teachers to cover absences.
And it occurs in all of our buildings. I was in one Thursday and went to the door, and the teacher had 2 groups of 4th graders because it's an emergency situation, and you don't know, and if there's not a sub. But we do have a shortage. And one of our issues is finding people who, first of all, can qualify to do it, but then the other half, and this is the part that people don't get, that we're also willing to have them with kids. So for us, that's a really critical issue, and so sometimes the two things don't meet, but I appreciate the fact that at least we're trying to gather information to see how we can compensate when teachers have to go over and above, so. Thanks, Charles.
Okay. Any other comments? Okay. Well, thanks to all parties for, making it an efficient and fairly short process, I think. So, all those in favor of the recommendation that the board ratify the contract, or that the board ratify the contract between FWCS and FWEA, signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Okay. Next is recommended, and this is wage and salary increase for employees and non-union salary increase. It's recommended that the board approve wage and salary increases for all staff not represented by a collective bargaining group. All active permanent staff not represented by a collective bargaining group will receive a 2.5% wage or salary increase for the 2019-20 school year. Other compensation and benefits for all employees represented by a collective bargaining group will be determined within their bargaining agreements. Permanent staff does not include substitutes, temporary, or inactive employees. Do we have a motion and a second?
Move approval.
Thanks, Steve. Thanks, Ann. Any questions? So, Charles, who would this be?
So it would be classified staff,
Okay.
administrators, people who aren't in AFSCME or Teamsters or the classified union, nurses, those groups.
Okay.
And those are people that we're going to be bringing to you as we meet with those specific groups.
Right.
So they have
Right.
a bargaining unit.
Right.
Right.
And we have to go
Right.
through their bargaining unit, but these are people who are not in any kind of bargaining unit.
Okay. Okay. Any other questions? Okay, all those in favor of approval signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, next we have the high ability grants. Recommend that the board approve the application for and acceptance of a high ability grant from the Indiana Department of Education in the amount of $164,290 for the 2019-20 school year. The state of Indiana provides non-competitive funds for districts to address the learning needs of high ability students. Funds for 1920 will be used to provide assessments and other tools to aid in the appropriate identification of high-ability students for this school year, as well as testing materials for the fall of 2020, to provide professional learning opportunities for elementary, middle school principals and teachers around high-ability needs and supports, and to provide an appropriate education for identified high-ability students through differentiated services and program options. Currently, high-ability services are delivered through the efforts of classroom teachers. The overall program is coordinated by Amelia Flieger, curriculum coordinator of K-12 High Ability Advanced Placement and Dual Credit and Fine Arts. Oof. This grant addresses Goal 1, achieve and maintain academic excellence, and questions will be answered by Amelia Flieger, is that right? Flieger. I think I got it right before. I got it wrong this time. It just occurred to me when I said it. Curriculum coordinator. So do we have a motion and a second?
So moved.
Second.
Thanks, Jordan. Thanks, Steve. Any questions?
Well, since you're here, can you tell us a little bit about the events that you started last year and are going to do again this fall for high-ability families?
Sure, thanks, Ann. We are hosting High Ability Parent Nights for parents of high ability students this coming year at our different high schools for our feeder families.
Nice. Did you see the article that just came out recently, the research that came out that students from wealthier families are more likely to be identified as high ability than students from, say, higher poverty families? And
I
so
did.
what are we doing to, do we track that? Even though they say high ability students, they occur across the spectrum.
Within Fort Wayne Community Schools, we utilize a universal screening process. So we do not go based on nomination. We screen all students in kindergarten, second, fifth, and then select eighth grade students to eliminate the issue of basically of that issue, because we want to make sure that we identify all students.
That judgment issue, right, right. Okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
How many students are in this program, or would this program help?
Identification within Fort Wayne Community Schools, we have roughly 9% of the population. So roughly around 2,900.
And is this the amount of money pretty similar to what we got the year before?
It's a little more than we got last year. I was pretty pleased to see that.
Okay. Okay. Any other questions? Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, all those in favor of approval signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, now we have which everyone's read. The second semester 2018-19 extracurricular account reports. It's recommended that the board accept the extracurricular account reports for the second semester of 2018-19. Indiana Code 2041-1-8 requires an accurate account of all money received and expended by the extracurricular accounts. A report of the sources of all receipts, the purposes for which the money was expended, and the balance on hand is required to be filed with the School Board of Trustees. All extracurricular semester reports were audited by the business office. The general ledger summary report of each school's accounts is provided. All extracurricular records are maintained for 5 years and are available for inspection. Questions will be addressed by Chief Financial Officer Kathy Friend. So do we have a motion and a second?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, thanks, Ann. Thanks, Glenna. So that's a lot of time, isn't it, Kathy? Every school, it's amazing when you look at, I mean, there are probably some small towns in Indiana that don't have expenditures and revenue similar to our high schools. Any questions? Okay. All those in favor of approval signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. That brings us to the Shawnee Middle School renovation. It's recommended that the board approve the following construction contracts for the renovation of Shawnee Middle School. From Shawnee Construction and Engineering, Inc., the base bid is $8,748,000 with 3 alternates. The total contract is $8,876,300. From Automated Logic, the controls-based bid is $428,800. The project consists of architectural, mechanical, plumbing, and electrical renovations to Shawnee Middle School. The existing building automation systems or controls are proprietary, and Automated Logic is a single-source vendor for this work. The project was designed by KTD and Associates, Inc. Funding for the project will be from a combination of the 2016 School Building Basic Renewal Restoration and Safety Project, Nutrition Services, and Technology Fund. The work will be completed in phases and is anticipated to be substantially completed by July 22nd, 2021. Questions will be addressed by Heather Krebs, Coordinator of Program Controls. Do we have a motion and a second?
So moved.
Second.
Thanks, Steve. Thanks, Tom. And members can see on the back, we had 5 bidders, all but one all fairly close together.
Yeah.
Anyone have any questions for?
Is this the last major building, Heather, that is under phase 2, or do we have another building still out there?
We actually have 3 more.
Wow.
Price Elementary is currently out to bid, and we should be bringing that to you, I believe, next month. And then we have 2 more that will go into design this coming year, and those are Waynedale and Lindley Elementaries.
Okay.
Anything else? Okay. Thanks, Heather. Okay, all those in favor of approval signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, next we have 2020 budget adoption and resolutions. Recommend that the board approve their proposed Fort Wayne Community Schools 2020 appropriations, the 2020 levy, the 3-year capital projects plan for 2020 through 2022, and the bus replacement plan for the years 2020 to 2024. A public budget presentation was made at the September 19th Board of School Trustees meeting. All board-adopted funds and proposed budgets were discussed, and estimated tax rates were reviewed. The notice for the capital projects plan and the bus replacement plan were properly advertised on September 10th in the Journal-Gazette. The notice directs taxpayers to the district website for details of the plans. The budget was submitted to the Indiana Gateway on September 10th for public information. A hearing to allow the public to make comments on the advertised budgets, the 3-year capital projects plan, and the 5-year bus replacement plan was held on September 23rd. So all legal requirements for advertisement and hearings have been met for all funds, the capital projects plan, and the bus replacement plan. Questions will be addressed by Chief Financial Officer Kathy Friend. Do we have a motion and a second?
I'd move approval of the recommended items before us.
Second.
Thanks, Steve. Thanks, Lena. So, any questions? Okay. All those in favor of approving these items signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. The next item on the agenda is levy neutrality. It's recommended that the board approve a reduction in the 2020 maximum levy of the operations fund to support the tax neutrality retirements of the pension bond fund. Public Law 199 requires that those districts who issue a pension bond to replace their retirement severance programs must make the annual bond payment a tax-neutral event to taxpayers. Questions will be addressed by Chief Financial Officer Kathy Friend. Do we have a motion and a second?
Move approval.
Second.
Thanks, Tom. Thanks, Steve. So Kathy, we've been doing this for quite a while now.
Yes.
Remind me when this goes away. When's the last time we have to do this?
2021.
2021, yay.
Yep.
Okay, so only 2 more times.
Once.
Yep. One more time. This is 20. This is for the 20 budget.
Oh, this is for the 2020. Oh, okay,
Yes,
I thought you meant
yes.
we had to do it in 2020. Oh, so only one more time. Awesome.
Yep.
And just as a reminder for people who don't understand the history behind this, there were some school districts in Indiana who were not quite so fiscally responsible as we have been, correct?
Well, at the time this was put in place, there were people who had negotiated plans, benefit plans, severance benefit plans that they could not afford any longer. And we were paying for ours on a pay-as-you-go basis, and we're not having that issue. But the districts that were struggling to do that initiated with the legislature a change that then we were all required to participate in. And we had to take out a bond issue in order to fund our severance benefit plans that we had in place. So that's
And so
what we
all
did.
the other districts that had to do that.
Everybody had to do it, yes.
And so they were all doing 20-year bonds.
So we could
and-
actually
yeah.
fund the plans
They'll
that
be
we
done in
had.
1 year.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then we changed the makeup of our plans going forward. Anyhow, this is to repay that bond issue, and it had to be tax neutral. So because of this, we have to cut the operations fund by $3.3 million this year in 2020. And so the good news is in 2022, that will go away and we won't have to make that cut anymore.
Right, right. But again, this is another reason, you know, on top of tax caps and something like this, a pension, making this pension bond tax neutral, that's just the reality that we and many districts are in, and that if you want to do renovation of buildings, like we're doing with Shawnee Middle School, and then Price, and then Lindley, and Waynedale, and our upcoming 2020 referendum, that's the only way to do it, is to appeal to the taxpayer. We're lucky enough here in Fort Wayne, and are thankful for the fact that our voters have approved overwhelmingly 2 referendums. Okay, any other questions? Okay, all those in favor of approving signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, and one more item, and that is goals for expenditure categories. It's recommended that the board approve a resolution to set expenditure category goals for the 2019-20 school year. The goal is to improve upon the current percentages between the expenditures for the student instructional categories and the other expenditure categories. Beginning with the 07-08 school year, school districts are required to establish goals for each category of expenditures that will increase the school corporation's allocation of taxpayer resources directly to student instruction and learning, in light of the unique circumstances present in the school corporation. So the Department of Education most recently reported the following percentages, and this is a state average. So the state average for all districts in 16-17 for student instructional expenditures is 58.1%. Fort Wayne Community Schools spends 65.3%. And then other categories as listed. So Fort Wayne Community Schools was 7.2 percentage points greater than the state average in dollars spent on instruction. So questions will be addressed by Chief Financial Officer Kathy Friend. Do we have a motion and a second?
Move for approval.
Second. Thanks, Maria. Thanks, Ann. Any questions? Comments? And so these categories when we changed to like the operations fund and the education fund, did it change any of these categories or no? It just changed where the...
Yeah, because this includes all buckets, including the grants.
Right.
So this includes everything. So like the fact that we have Title I.
Oh, that includes, oh,
yes,
really?
it includes all funds spent, yeah.
Including debt service?
Yes.
Oh.
that shows up in the non-operational section.
Right,
Yeah.
right. Well, that's pretty, I guess I was thinking that that service was separate, so 65% on instructions, that's pretty good. Good job.
Good job, you.
Okay, any other questions? And so, what's our resolution? We're going to do better?
Yes.
We're gonna continue to beat the state?
Yes.
Okay.
That's the recommended course of action that has been told to the school districts. I'm not sure that this is monitored very well. As you can see, the data is
I was gonna say, so it's not like the operations, it's not like the 85% rule where we'd all have to wear a dunce cap and make some declaration to the public or something, right?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, and the data is,
But they're not
dated.
sending us any awards or anything?
No, if there's an award, we didn't get it. So.
Okay, well, we should. Okay, so all those in favor of approval signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. So that brings us to the close of our meeting, except for board member comments.
I have a gift for everybody up here at the front table. It's not a copy of Eric Doden's book. It is something more valuable.
You need to go out and spend $50 on each one of us?
It is something more valuable. While at the NSBA Council of Urban Boards of Education meeting, I was given a handful of gift certificates from Donors Choose. Last year, I used one of these. There was, I believe, a teacher at Forest Park. Is there a Mrs. Who's there, Steve? She was in need of crayons or pens or something, and I was able to use one of these gift cards to apply to the amount of money she was requesting. It wasn't a lot of money. It was under $200. And what's really neat about these gift cards is that the Donors Choose is the intermediary, so it never goes to a school or teacher. And so they also validate the need, and then they are involved in the procurement of the request that the teacher is making. So if you would go online and search for teachers that are using Donors Choose as the instrument to raise money, you will find teachers in our district as well as teachers in other districts.
Have you looked yet?
Yeah.
Yes. So,
We got these last year at the Equity Conference in DC, and we used them.
Yes.
When we got back.
that's right. Glennie and I got it the
Yeah.
last time. So
We got them, and it works, it's very easy to use.
Nice.
Yes.
User-friendly.
And I can figure it out, is what you're telling me?
Not only can you figure it out, but there are multiple projects.
hey, we did it.
Or
We know
Tom.
you can do it,
Yeah, we
right?
can do
Tom.
it. Anybody can do it.
So anyway, take a peek at Donors Choose, and I don't think there's an immediate timeline on these, so that, a teacher may post a request later in the school year. And I do have some
So
extra
if you're listening-
cards.
Fort Wayne Community School staff, and you have some classroom needs, you should be going on Donors Choose.
So in fact, I'm going to give these to Steve Brace. These are 5 more cards.
Oh, nice.
So that if we have some teachers that have a project, a need, and there's a gap, and parents or people can't fulfill that gap, here's a good head start for that program. So choose wisely.
Nice. Well, thank you.
No comment?
I feel like Santa.
I have no comment.
No comment.
No comment.
No comments?
Dr. Robinson?
I've been invited just about every week to come talk to a community group about Fort Wayne Community Schools, and I was at the Fort Wayne Foundation on Thursday. And I want to thank Krista and Jen for always making sure that I go. I don't call it propaganda anymore. I'm trying to be better at it. But what I find absolutely amazing is how little people know about what we do, because we just quietly do what we do. But people are absolutely amazed at the quality of programs and the number of programs. And so I recruited a couple of people for next year's principal for the day. So this year it's principal for the day on Thursday. And I think we still got a couple more slots. Krista, Jen? Two? One? Got one more slot. And it's just a phenomenal way. So I would just encourage board members, as you're out talking to people, encourage them to contact us and just be a part of that, because you have to see it. You have to see it to believe it. So for all of those schools hosting guests on Thursday, I know they'll just be wowed when they leave. So thank you.
Steve?
If I may, just one additional comment. I was had a chance along with you and Maria to attend the annual conference of the Indiana School Boards Association, and had a chance to talk to a school board member from Lake County on one of the legislative issues for ISBA this coming year, and it's on improving the language with respect to school referendums. Right now, the language is not very clear with respect to the overall effect it would have on a school district's budget, and it doesn't really accurately give a long-term projection. It may, in the short run, positively affect or negatively affect it in the eyes of a homeowner, but the ISBA is encouraging that school districts have a chance to more accurately reflect the change, in most cases, a change that really doesn't increase that levy. So I know Heather Krebs, who represents DeKalb Central and is going to be working on that, and then a gentleman from Lake County, and hopefully we might get the attention of the legislature and really more accurately portraying what the referendum does to a school district's budget.
I think we kind of battled that in 2016, didn't we, Kathy?
Yes, we did.
Because even though our 2016 referendum was not going to increase the tax rate, that's not, if you really read the language, that's not what it said. So that was, I remember that was a big part of the education process in 2016 is, kind of making that clearer.
They did try to change it in this last session too, but it didn't make
Kind
it.
of didn't get out of committee or something, right? Yeah, I know. Okay.
But I think the irony is that the state took over funding of public schools. And then, for example, like the pension bond and almost everything you approve here limits what we can do, which means then you have to go to the taxpayers to ask for a referendum, when the whole point of them taking over was to reduce the burden on taxpayers. So that's why it's so important for all of us to try to tell people, to get them into our schools, to have those conversations. Because even just the fact of settling our contract, there was so much talk about pay for teachers and how the state was going to swoop in because we districts are just doing teachers in. When you look at how much we actually get from the state, it doesn't make sense. We do probably better than we should because it's a priority for us. But like the tax neutrality, which impacted our ability to fix our buildings, just all kinds of things get put on the local taxpayer. And fortunately, we were out there trying to tell people, but everybody has to tell people. This is why we have to do what we do, and we've been, like you said, we've been blessed. But I think as we're going out for this next referendum, there's so much conversation about what schools ought to be doing and the money's there. I appreciate this board. We talk about our money all the time in public. So anybody that wants to know has easy access to where we spend our money. But it's just ironic that they take over this funding of public schools, and then every board meeting, you are working on cutting a fund from someplace to pay for something over here that was a mandate. And I just think we can't, I hope you continue with that conversation with the School Board Association. It just doesn't make sense. And our peers in the rural areas, I don't know how they make it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not just urban districts. Our rural neighbors, and there are a lot of rural communities around Fort Wayne, I don't know how they make it. So that's an important fight. Thank you for doing that, Steve.
And Kathy, am I right, is the complexity hearing tomorrow?
Yes.
Kathy's going.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Remind us, those of you who, and I can send it to all of you if you want, but those of you get the updates from the Indiana Coalition for Public Education. And did you see that most recent email about?
I saw it, haven't read it.
Yeah, the complexity thing, and all the people that are on the, I forget the name of the study committee. But
I think it's a school funding formula studying committee.
is that what it is? School funding formula? But anyways, it lists all the names and the email addresses of the people on the, so just give us just a handful of, what do we use what do we rely on our complexity money for?
So the IUSA districts met last week, and we put together some information that we'll present tomorrow. And we tried to break it out into certain categories. Like one category is academic support. So that would include things like classroom assistance. Special ed is a big one because only a portion of our special ed cost is paid for by the state special ed grant and the federal grant. So a portion of that is left basically to be paid for with complexity.
And that would be assistance again, and
yeah, that would
maybe
be if you take the entire package of special ed and then you say part of it's paid this way, part this way, the balance is unfunded really, because the foundation should only be paying for the same level of service that all school districts have to provide, the baseline level of service. So special ed and ELL are sort of the same in that regard, in that ELL also has a portion, a much smaller portion than what special ed has, but a portion that's paid for with a federal grant and a state grant. The balance is all, we consider it to be part of the complexity expenditures because it should not come from the foundation. Another one is instructional supplies, like for instance textbooks, consumables that are not reimbursable by the state. And if the parents don't pay for those consumables, then the district pays for those consumables. So I think those are the major categories. Health services is another big one, and security, case management, the social emotional side of the equation. So there's quite a bit that we do. We get about $32 million in complexity revenue now, which has been declining, but $32 million is the number now. The expenses we identified just in this exercise we did were over $37 million for Fort Wayne Community Schools, and it really was not an exhaustive list. I mean, we could have continued to drill down on that more, but I think it's evident that we just need to keep that $32 million from going any lower than what it is now. I don't know that we have any hope in increasing it, but we certainly don't want to see it diminished any more than it already has been. So we've lost, in 13-14, we were at about $1,700 per student, and we're now down to about $1,100 per student in the complexity formula. So it's a big deal, and there's a pattern of chipping away at it. So we really need to protect it. So I think this is the first time there's ever been a hearing on just the complexity index.
I'm not sure if that's a good thing or bad thing.
Well, they know that this is our issue.
Right.
So, yep. And
Well, I think it's starting to affect a lot more schools.
It is.
Even
It is.
suburban schools. I mean, hate to say it, but.
But I think Senator Bassler is very interested in he really is very interested in working on this topic, and he's leading the group, so, yeah.
I know, and I won't name any names, but I do know there was somebody on the committee who made the comment a few years ago about, that he didn't think the fact that Johnny didn't have breakfast this morning, was an education issue. But, anybody that's taught or worked in a school understands that very much is an issue. All those things that happen at home eventually affect the student at school.
Right. And one of the things that we couldn't quite get our hands around how to quantify, but the mobility issue too. I mean, we all have high mobility issues, and so what impact is that having on the classroom, and what supports are being provided to students because of mobility, and so.
But I think
What about homelessness? Is that, I mean, is that even considered part of the complexity formula? Because that is,
Well, the fact that those students get counted as part of the poverty equation that
go into
that generates the
the,
complexity revenue,
okay.
yes. Yeah.
But I think one of the talking points that's a simple one for people listening is every single topic that the legislators or the news pick up, bullying, safety issues, all of the things that are of concern for the public, those are things that we have to provide. And our complexity money goes to make sure we've got 50 buildings as opposed to a district with 5. And so it magnifies. So it's almost talking out of both sides of your mouth. They want us to do this and this and this and this. But the complexity index helps us when you have more opportunities and challenges, and that takes away from the pot that you're supposed to be giving teachers a raise or focus on programs. So, complexity sounds like, well, if you just give everybody the same amount of money per student, it ought to work. Well, but then there are all these other things you tell us that we should have to watch out for, and that just tips the scale. So I think that's one, too. I don't hold out much hope because we've been talking about this. Kathy and I have been up and down that road 16 years trying to get them to understand that. But I think the board has to keep talking about, well, on this hand, you tell us that these are the things you want us to do, but over here, there's no additional money to do it. So we're going to rob from Peter to pay Paul, and something's not going to get done.
well, hopefully, like Kathy, you said, they can at least,
Don't
stop
go
the
any lower.
bleeding. I mean, complexity money has gone down the last 4 years. Let's just, freeze it.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, thanks, Kathy. Good luck. Okay. We do meet again in October, correct? Okay. And then soon after that is the showcase, right?
November the 4th is the showcase.
November 2nd?
Second.
Is the showcase? Okay, thought that's what I wrote down. Okay, so I think that's it. If anyone wishes to adjourn, do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Thanks, Steve. Thanks, Tom. All those in favor of adjourning signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. The microphone is open if anyone wishes to address the board.